Hey everyone, today I'm going to be ranking the Godzilla movies. This is going to be a long one, so please bear with me. There are 37 movies to get through here. Got this guy with me, so I think I'm ready. Starting off, way down at the bottom. Number 37 is Godzilla 1998. Now, as a monster movie, this one's actually kind of decent. The CGI actually holds up pretty well. It's dated for sure, but when you see it composited into shots, it looks fine. And Zilla's design, as an original design, is actually pretty cool. Also, Jean Reno is fucking great. I really hope I said his name right. Unfortunately, this isn't just another monster movie. This is a Godzilla movie. And in that regard, it is a failure. The monster design would work for an original monster, but this isn't an original monster. This is supposed to be Godzilla. It is an insult to Godzilla.
Where'd he go?
Get together, guys. Prepare to fire.
Echo 4, ready. Echo 2, ready.
Fire! I think we got him.
There is a reason that Toho bought the rights to this monster, rebranded it Zilla, and put it in Final Wars just to have the real Godzilla kill it on screen with the greatest of ease. We'll get there. Also, the CG itself isn't the worst, but Zilla definitely changes size multiple times throughout this movie. He's huge, and then he's somehow able to dive underwater into the river. I think the Hudson? I don't remember for sure. Some New York river that would not be deep enough to hide him. And also, there's a submarine down there, apparently. Makes no sense. My score is 1 out of 5. Number 36 is All Monsters Attack, also known as Godzilla's Revenge. There are a few movies in this franchise aimed at children, and none more so than this one. All of the monster stuff that happens in this movie are in a kid's daydreams. And a lot of the action is stock footage, and the rest of the movie is just this kid getting kidnapped and managing to escape. Oh, and because it's a daydream, baby Godzilla, or Minya, or whatever you call him, shrinks down to human size and talks to the kid.
Hi! なんだ、君か。何してんの？友達がいなくてつまんないやん。じゃあ僕と同じだ。
It sucks. That being said, at least the monsters are practical. The action that's not stock footage, the action they actually shot for this film is okay, and the movie does at least try to send a good message to kids about standing up for yourself. I guess that's something. My score is 1.5 out of 5. Next up, number 35 is Godzilla Raids Again. This was the follow-up to the 1954 classic, and what a disappointment it was! The production was rushed and it shows. The plot is thin and the script feels half-assed. That being said, it does mark the first appearance of Anguirus, the most underrated kaiju in history, and there's some decent action, so that's something. My score is 2 out of 5. My number 34 is Ibira, Horror of the Deep. This is a weird one. It was originally supposed to be a King Kong movie, and it shows. They didn't do a very good job of covering up that fact. Godzilla has many of Kong's traits, including an attraction to the female lead. Mothra's here, and there's some pretty good action, but ultimately this one is pretty forgettable. My score is 2.25 out of 5. Number 33 is Godzilla vs. Hedorah. This is another weird one. It has a pretty admirable anti-pollution message, but it's so in your face about it that you'll probably stop caring around the hour mark. Like me. feel like the filmmakers were on acid because there's a lot of trippy visuals in here. Granted, it was the early 70s, but still. Hadara is a decent enough villain, and there's some cool action. Plus, we get Godzilla defying gravity and fucking flying. That's worth a 1.5 on its own. My score is 2.5 out of 5. Moving on up. My number 32 is Godzilla the Planet Eater. 31 is Godzilla City on the Edge of Battle. And 30 is Godzilla Planet of the Monsters. I don't really have a lot to say about these animated Godzilla movies, so I'm just lumping them all together. They're all good movies, but they're not necessarily very good Godzilla movies. The animation is gorgeous, the plots are solid, the voice acting is pretty great, and the action scenes are awesome. I have them ranked this way based on how much of that action actually involves Godzilla. My score for The Planet Eater is 2.75 out of 5. My score for City on the Edge of Battle is 2.8 out of 5. My score for Planet of the Monsters is 2.85 out of 5. Oh yeah, I'm getting really specific with the scores this time around. Number 29 is Godzilla vs. Megalon. This is another weird one. It was originally supposed to be a Jet Jaguar movie, but the studio wasn't very confident in that idea, so they added Godzilla. Too bad he doesn't show up until an hour into the movie. It's geared towards kids, so naturally there's an annoying kid character, and like most of the franchise, it focuses way too much on the underdeveloped human characters. Anyway, the final fight is pretty awesome, the music is good, and the plot is coherent, so that's something. My score is 2.9 out of 5. Number 28 is Son of Godzilla. You know how in Bob's Burgers, Bob's family does something embarrassing and he's just like, oh my god.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Linda, oh my god, I wasn't serious. Oh my god, what did I do? Oh my god. Oh my god.
So that's what Mom means when she says she's going to shuck an oyster.
Oh my god.
That's this movie, but Bob is Godzilla. Watching Big G try to teach his son to be like him is genuinely adorable. There's also a plot with the humans testing out like a freeze ray or some shit, but it's interesting enough and it didn't annoy me. The new monster, Kamacuras, is pretty cool. The action is solid and the ending is kind of a downer, but like a good kind of downer. It was sad. I didn't cry, but I was getting emotional. My score is 3 out of 5. Number 27 is Godzilla 2000 Millennium. This is a pretty typical Godzilla flick. Humans are hunting Big G when a new monster appears and they have to work with him, kind of, to defeat it. Credit where it's due, Orga is a solid villain. The action scenes are pretty great, and I love when it tries to swallow Big G so he just blows its head apart from the inside. is 3.1 out of 5. Number 26 is Godzilla Final Wars. This one is apparently a fan favorite, but for me, it's just good. My main problem is that it feels like it's simultaneously ripping off The Matrix with the human fight scenes and the X-Men with the whole mutant thing. And it's only 125 minutes long, but it somehow feels longer. That being said, this movie is a ton of fun. We get more monsters than ever before, and Godzilla wipes the floor with them with a little help from Mothra. Best of all, Big G kills Zilla with the greatest of ease. Can you say catharsis, boys and girls? My score is 3.2 out of 5. My number 25 is Godzilla 1985. This is the Americanized version of The Return of Godzilla, so I don't really have a lot to say that I won't say about that movie. The return of the character Steve Martin from the original Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Mr. Martin, we need you in Washington.
Yes. I've been expecting you.
Otherwise, it's mostly the same movie. It's a well-made but unnecessary Americanization of the Japanese film. And not just a dub. They added some stuff. And, it's fine. My score is 3.25 out of 5. Number 24 is Terror of Mechagodzilla. This is one where the human drama doesn't do the movie any favors. It's not that bad, and the acting is pretty good, but it takes up way too much of the runtime. Big G and Mechagodzilla don't show up until late in the film, and the only interesting stuff before that is when Titanosaurus is destroying shit. The final fight is solid, though. My score is 3.3 out of 5. Number 23 is Invasion of Astro Monster, aka Monster Zero. This is one of the more plot-driven Godzilla movies, and it mostly works. The pacing is good, the action is great, and the acting is good. I also love Big G's victory dance. My score is 3.35 out of 5. Next up, my number 22 is Godzilla vs. Gigan. This is a pretty typical Godzilla vs. movie in most regards, but this time he actually has a team-up with someone other than Mothra, so that's something. Speaking of which, Anguirus is back chronologically for the first time since Godzilla Raids Again. For those of you who are wondering, Destroy All Monsters chronologically is the last film in the Showa era. Gigan is a highly impractical, but very cool-looking villain. He has no hands and a belly saw. How does he do anything besides fighting? Anyway, the 2-on-2 fight of Big G and Anguirus versus King Ghidorah and Gigan is great. and the human drama is at least interesting enough to not be annoying. My score is 3.4 out of 5. Number 21 is Godzilla vs. Megaguirus. Humans are so desperate to defeat Godzilla that they create a fucking miniature black hole weapon. Seriously, how could anyone think that's a good idea? Anyway, a big-ass dragonfly comes through, lays an egg that's actually a bunch of eggs stuck together, and fucks off back through the portal. The eggs hatch and all hell breaks loose. The plot is decent enough, the acting is good enough, and the action is great. There's some very iffy CGI here and there, but it's not awful. My score is 3.45 out of 5. Number 20 is Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. This is one of the weirdest ones. The time travel was definitely inspired by Back to the Future, and for what it's worth, it makes this movie stand out from the bunch. The plot is more complicated than usual, but thankfully it's not that hard to follow. The action is great, and the acting and the musical score are pretty good. Score is 3.5 out of 5. Number 19 is King Kong vs. Godzilla. This was probably the biggest crossover of its era, and one of the first big crossovers that I'm aware of, and it mostly lives up to the hype. The monster suits are not great, even by those early standards, but the action is solid and the human characters are at least fun to watch. The titular fights are a ton of fun, and I like that they level the playing field by giving Kong electrical powers. My score is 3.6 out of 5. Number 18 is Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. This one is pretty standard, but done well. Space Godzilla is a pretty solid villain, the acting is pretty good, and the action is great. The sidekick stuff with Mickey in this timeline is pretty cool. Little Godzilla's here, and he's cool too. Mogira is also pretty badass. My score is 3.7 out of 5. And number 17 is Godzilla, King of the Monsters! And yes, I have to shout it, there is an exclamation mark in the title. It's the law. Like Godzilla in 1985, this is a well-made but unnecessary Americanization of a Japanese Godzilla film. In this case, the original. That being said, it's still great. I don't have a lot to say that I won't also say about the original, so yeah. Really, the only addition that meant a whole lot was the character Steve Martin.
A prehistoric monster the Japanese call Godzilla has just walked out of Tokyo Bay. He's as tall as a 30-story building. And now he's making his way toward the city's main line of defense. 300,000 volts of electricity strung around the city is a barrier. A barrier against Godzilla.
My score is 3.75 out of 5. Number 16 is The Return of Godzilla. Apparently, rubber Godzilla suits didn't improve very much in the 9-year gap, but otherwise this is a solid Godzilla movie. The action is great, and the sense of horror from the original is back. The action is solid, and the musical score is great. score is 3.8 out of 5. Number 15 is Godzilla Tokyo SOS. This one is the sequel to Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, and it brought back Mothra and made her solo movie officially canon in this timeline, which automatically makes this movie awesome. The fights are top-notch, the plot is solid, and I love the ending. My score is 3.85 out of 5. Number 14 is Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. This one gave us Fire Rodan. Enough said.
Radon is still alive.
Score is 3.9 out of 5. Lucky 13 is Godzilla vs. Mothra. This is another interesting one. Batra is a great villain, and Mothra is a delight as usual. Monsters change sides, monsters knock over Ferris wheels, I love it.
Godzilla の熱線が鱗粉で反射されてる。
モスラの最後の武器です。
Score is 3.95 out of 5. My number 12 is Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. There's a few issues here and there, but like its sequel, this movie has some of the best action in the franchise. Mechagodzilla is dope, and Big G looks pretty great. My score is 4 out of 5. Number 11 is Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah Giant Monsters All-Out Attack. Damn, that's a mouthful. One take. This is a pretty unique one. We get pure evil Godzilla, like white eyes and everything. Heroic Ghidorah not under mind control, and Mothra siding with Ghidorah for once. Because she's always on the side of good, so it makes sense. Neat stuff. My score is 4.05 out of 5. Finally, moving on to the top 10. My number 10 is Godzilla, King of the Monsters. This is probably the most entertaining movie in the franchise. Okay, maybe not the most, but it's up there for sure. The monsters look amazing, Mothra is beautiful, Rodan is badass, Ghidorah is terrifying, and Big G is just awesome. people complain that this movie focuses on underdeveloped human characters too much and not enough on the monsters. To which I say this. Is this your first Godzilla movie? Because they're all like this. Welcome to the franchise, motherfuckers. Anyway, the action is great, the acting is good enough, and Bear McCreary's musical score is fucking awesome. My score is 4.1 out of 5. Number 9 is Godzilla 2014. This movie is beautiful. Seriously. The skydiving scene especially. You rarely see this much beauty in monster movies. And the music in that scene, very reminiscent of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Or at least that's what it reminded me of. I actually don't mind the lack of action because that just means more build-up to the final battle. And that final battle is incredible. Seriously, Godzilla spitting atomic breath down the Muto's throat is one of the greatest moments in this entire franchise. Fight me. My score is 4.2 out of 5. Number 8 is Mothra vs. Godzilla. An oldie but a goodie. The original face-off between the King and Queen of the Monsters is still arguably the best. The acting is great, the action is better, and the music is awesome. My score is 4.25 out of 5. My number 7 is Godzilla vs. Biollante. Biollante is definitely the most unique Godzilla villain, and it's one of the reasons this movie works so well. The human drama is actually some of the best in the franchise, the action is great, and the monsters look awesome. My score is 4.5 out of 5. Number 6 is Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. King Caesar really makes this movie stand out from the rest. He's such a unique monster. He's kind of an ape, but not like Kong, and he can redirect energy attacks through his eyes. Awesome. Great monsters, great action, great music. Score is 4.75 out of 5. Number 5 is Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. This one has some of the best action of the Showa era, backed up by some of the most interesting human drama in the franchise. Big G, Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah are all dope, and the fights are awesome. acting is pretty great too. My score is 4.8 out of 5. Number 4 is the original 1954 Godzilla. This is one of the few movies in the franchise that actually has a solid feeling of horror. It's a pretty scary monster movie. The tension is great, and the mystery is intriguing. The acting is great, and the action scenes are surprisingly well done. What else is there to say? This movie is a classic for a reason. My score is 4.85 out of 5. My number 3 is Destroy All Monsters. This is just such a classic Godzilla movie with so many of the recurring tropes from the franchise. Evil aliens attacking Earth with the help of mind-controlled monsters. Humanity freeing those monsters. King Ghidorah showing up. Classic.
King Ghidorah. 宇宙怪獣キングギドラです。上空から地球の怪獣を狙っております。待ち構えるゴジラたち。
The action is great, the music is great, the movie as a whole is just great. Score is 4.9 out of 5. Number 2 is Godzilla vs. Destroya. I seem to keep repeating myself, but whatever. This one stands out from the rest. Godzilla is a ticking time bomb on the verge of a radioactive meltdown. Meanwhile, a new monster shows up for him to fight. This is the one where Big G actually dies, and it's heartbreaking. Like, he's died before, but this is the first time you didn't want him to die. My score is 4.95 out of 5. Finally, like seriously, finally, my number 1 is Shin Godzilla, aka Godzilla Resurgence. This movie is a masterpiece. This is the first time a Japanese Godzilla has ever been portrayed solely by CGI, and it looks great. It is definitely the scariest Godzilla so far, even if this little action figure doesn't do it justice. And on top of all that, this movie is a solid political satire, poking fun at all the bureaucratic red tape the Japanese government, and governments in general, have to cut through to get shit done. This movie has the best human drama in the franchise, and once you figure out who everyone is, you genuinely care about what happens to them. The action scenes are outstanding. Like the recent American movies, the CG monster allows for these low-angle shots that make the monsters look and feel huge, something that the classic Godzilla movies lacked. The musical score is one of the best in the franchise, especially the operatic vocals when the B-2 bombers attack. score is 5 out of 5.